Morning, buddy.
Morning, Dan.
No guests.
Yeah.
It's you and me.
Just the two of us.
Just the
Love
two
it.
of us, baby.
So this is our first topical episode, which since we've done the mutual interviews of each other is a first. So I'm excited for this. Good little experiment. We'll see what people think of it.
I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of conversations just riffing on different ideas, and this one we've halfway prepared for, so I feel like it'll be a little more thorough than usual.
Yeah.
And I know on my end, vetted some ideas that were just garbage. Exciting to think about, but just didn't have any legs to
Not
them.
podcast worthy yet. Yeah.
But first we were going to go through some updates because we haven't
fall updates.
We haven't filled everybody in on the past goings-ons. And why don't you go ahead? And
So if anyone listening now had listened to, I believe it was episode 4, Daniel and I talked about 2 different experiments that we were trying. And so mine was we were going to take some cull cows that we were removing from the herd, to the stockyard for the first time. So typically we sell our cows directly off the farm, whether it's actual cows or heifers or steers. All of our animals we try to sell just directly off the farm if we're going to sell them on the hoof, still alive, not as meat. This is our first experiment, taking them to the stockyard. And just a quick review, the stockyard is like, it's an auction. So it's like Vegas. You don't know, you're kind of going in betting that the prices are going to be good based off of what they were yesterday, but you really don't know until you get in there and the buyers bid and they're, if they're in a good mood or if they're in a bad mood or if there's somebody didn't show up, and so it's a less competitive bidding environment. There's all these factors you're out of control with. So it was definitely an experiment, and here's what we did. So
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
Why does the price of cattle at the market vary so much? Why is it Vegas-esque and not a set price? Is it because it's a commodity crop?
Yeah,
like
because it's
corn or soybean wood.
Yeah, and I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's not like you could get 50 cents or you could get $1.50 for the same animal. It generally, it's like any market, short of a crash, it generally, kind of ebbs and flows. Mm-hmm. So it is relatively predictable, but it can change a decent amount. Like when I first brought up the topic of, taking livestock to the stockyard, the prices were like for cull cows. One of my neighbors said he got like $1.10 per pound. He said maybe $1.15 or something. So that's a pretty good price. So that made me think like, all right, well, maybe I'll take some up there. So we took 4 up, and we had 5 that we were going to cull from our herd. One of them we culled and sold just through friend connections. They knew we were selling some cull cows, knew a guy that needed one. Never met this dude before, but he shows up to the farm, buys one of our cull cows, and paid $1,100 for her. Didn't weigh her or anything. He was absolutely ecstatic with that price. I was happy because for us, I think we gave him a good deal, but at the same time, it wasn't much of a lift for us. It was easy to sort her out of the herd. He just came and picked her up. Mm-hmm. Done deal. So then I have 4 left, and I take those 4 to the stockyard. So the stockyard's about an hour from us, maybe less than that, but when you're hauling, it takes about 50 minutes. So we load up the cows, we get them in the trailer, we take them up to the stockyard. And the pricing at this point has gone down to around $1 from, the last week's reports, which were the most recent reports on the pricing. So I'm thinking, okay, around $1 is still pretty good. We get in there, and I guess just to make a long story short, it was an interesting thing to behold. It's a big facility, lots of different pens. It's very well run. You unload them into this chute, and they weigh them, and the guys that are going to bid, I didn't know this, but they're watching as they weigh them, and they're getting a close look at each animal. And I heard them talking about, that one's got some, whatever. That one's, I like the white face on that one, or, like weird stuff. Like look at the look at the hawk on that wood. Weird things. I'm like, what are they? I was trying to hear what they were saying, but I thought, I don't know who those guys are. Sure enough, those are the guys that were going to bid on them. I should have been paying more attention and talking them up. But anyway, these are the things you learn in retrospect.
These look like cull cows. They're not.
Yeah.
These are prima. Yeah.
These are, well, yeah. So there's a few errors that we made. One was we brought them as cull cows. And as I'm unloading, I actually knew the guy who was at the stockyard helped me unload. He was one of the first, when he was in high school, he worked at our farm. One of the first guys we just like hired after school to help me with stuff. His name's Sawyer. And Sawyer's like, oh man, if you guys got here an hour ago, the vet was here. We could have preg checked all these because they're good looking cows. There's nothing wrong with them other than some of them were older and they didn't calf. And so to us, we need our cows to calf. So that's why they were getting culled. It's possible they could have been pregnant though this time around, but we didn't. Anyway, we didn't want to expend the money on to bring the vet out to our farm. But a mistake I made was if I had known the vet was going to be there, the vet at the livestock yard could have, or the stockyard could have preg checked our cows. So anyway,
in which those would have commanded a higher price.
Oh yeah, much higher price, but as pregnant mama cows that are proven mamas. So cull cows are like the lowest price point you're gonna basically you're gonna get for your cow. So anyway, that was one mistake we made, and then the second one was I think just underestimating how much time it would take, because the cows ended up selling for about 90 cents per pound on average, which works out. It was in the 90s, 90 something cents per pound. Worked out to them averaging about $1,000 per head that we sold them for, and so it wasn't like terrible, but that $100 more per head that we could have made selling them off the farm, that's $400 more we could have made. And so that's not the worst, it's okay. Would have liked to make $400 more. But then when you factor in the fact that the time of loading them up, driving them up there, the fuel, all of that, it just, for that specific situation, was not ultimately wasn't worth it. So it was a lesson learned.
You and Bailey both went?
Bailey and I both went. I kind of wanted him to come up and see and experience it and learn, what it's like too, along with me. Because there's a lot of things about farming that I can just teach Bailey, but this is one of those things where I was like, hey, I've never done this before. Why don't you come with me and we'll figure it out together.
Question on that. When did you realize or start valuing your time as money? Because early on in the contract farming, I'm thinking of this because we talked that day and you're like, that was such a suck on time. We spent 5 hours, this whole process, could have just sold them off farm. When did that become important to you in your entrepreneurship? Because on contract farming, you have so much sweat equity in the place, but you don't value your time as much. It's like the one thing you have more of. You have more time than money. How do you value that now, and when did that change for you?
I don't know when I looked at my time differently. I think when I was doing the rental farm thing, as you referenced, I was just in the trenches at some point of just constantly having to do stuff. So it was more like the work was the priority, not money and time being even connected, because I wasn't getting paid an hourly rate anyway. So yeah, I think now it's more like I think about the broader set of responsibilities that I have. And if something like selling the 4 cows takes half of a day, and I think of, man, all the other things I could have done with my half a day, because we all only have so much time. That's when it comes into like, gosh, I missed taking my kids to school this morning to haul these cows up here when, yesterday I sold a cow off the farm and I still got to take my kids to school.
Right.
So I think there's that kind of tension. I guess as thinking out loud, I don't think I ever really thought of my time directly connected to an hourly monetary rate. That's not, I guess what I'm saying. It's more like a value across the board.
That's good.
Yeah.
So in short, if you had sold them off the farm, you could have made potentially $400 more, save some time. Okay. I'm going to one-up you real quick. Okay. I need to give my Harvest Fest
recap. The hay maze.
straw bale maize. Straw bale maize.
The straw bale maize, excuse me.
This is important
Not
because
hay.
it was straw bales. I can't use them as feed this winter. So we talked about this before, but we considered selling tickets to Harvest Fest to fund some of these fund
Little side
FUND.
projects.
Yeah, fund some of these side projects that we knew would draw people or thought we would draw people, and there'd be great experience on the farm and
Yep.
change up from our different bread days. So some of these were the giant inflatable slide.
The slide's a hit.
Slide's a hit.
Yeah.
$700. The pumpkin patch, which we went to an auction and bought pumpkins that someone else grew, and we were going to resell them. So I spent $1,000 on pumpkins.
And how many pumpkins do you think you got for $1,000?
With the minis, 300 or
300.
400.
Yeah, because you got everything from like a handheld size pumpkin to like a big carving pumpkin. Yeah.
Yeah, roughly 400. And we're confident we could sell all of them.
Yeah.
And it convinced ourselves we could sell all of them.
Yeah.
We did the pumpkins. We had a fire with a big stainless steel pot doing apple cider, and we're just going to give away cider. Thought that would really set the mood. And then the biggest expenditure was the straw bale maize. And I had worked this thing up that this would just be a castle of a maize.
Yeah.
And would just have the awe of everyone who witnessed it. And it would just draw people. And I had convinced myself of this.
I love how you built it up.
And
in your head.
I talked to everybody, and our employees and I who built it had a blast building it. So I thought, we're having so much. This is just going to bring the math. If you build it, they will come,
Yep.
baby.
Yeah,
And
so I thought, say the old field of dreams
this is
fallacy.
great. So this is a huge expenditure. And I'm confident I can hustle my way to overall profit.
Yeah,
here.
what did the final number come out to on the straw bale?
Okay,
maize?
thank you for asking. Hesitant to mention $3,000 of straw bales.
So you had to get some extra straw.
So I have 600 straw bales in the high tunnel for the maize, okay? So the closest round number to all these expenditures is $5,000 of expenses for bread day. And I thought, I had a real zinger. I thought, I know how to make this money back. I said, we are going to give away Seasons Yield product free for a year.
I thought that was a really great idea.
If you win a raffle.
Yeah.
So we did a raffle. This was my funding plan. I'm going to fund all these expenses. We're going to sell the pumpkins and we're going to sell raffle tickets. And I'm confident I can get back the $5,000 that I spent to boost the experience, to justify not doing ticket sales.
And so the raffle tickets are how much?
The raffle tickets were $5 a piece. And so you entered the raffle. You could buy unlimited time.
So you just sell 1,000 tickets.
Yes. So I bought 1,000 tickets off Amazon.
I think we bought like 4.
Thanks. We sold them at the cafe, at Bread Day, and online for pre-orders. And it was a lot of hype was around that because the value of that winning ticket was a lot. A year's worth. You could get a coffee and a food product. So you could basically get $15 of value 6 days a week at Seasons Yield for a year.
Yeah, for $5. That's awesome.
Now the cost to us is much less than that, but the value to the customer is significant. So we thought $5 ticket sales. How many tickets do you think we sold?
I would think you made it at least halfway, at least to 500. I mean, we bought 4, and I was like, "Wait, you bought 4, babe?" So I think we go to Seasons Yield either way. So
all right, well, we sold to date. We've sold $750 worth of pumpkins. Okay, so pumpkins. We sold 200 tickets for the raffle.
Really?
So that's $1,000, $1,750, including the pumpkins. And I have since the maize, I've started selling the straw bales. So I'm at $2,000 back of the original $5,000. So I'm out $3,000. So I'm being
2,000
very
back of the original $5,000. Sorry, I thought when you first said that, I was thinking, 2,000 back on the 3,000 of straw.
Yeah.
No, okay,
so
different.
I'm being very vulnerable with the numbers here, but this was the
It's
experiment.
not paying out.
Ben Gilbert, you said I could do it, and we did it.
Yeah.
So several lessons learned.
Yeah, what are you taking away from this?
I have some great
thoughts.
takeaways.
Having experienced 2 weekends of bread days, just some thoughts. But go ahead, yeah.
I'm eager for them.
Yeah.
One, we need to extend the window for ticket sales. I think this was a great opportunity. The raffle, we'll do it again next year. We gave people 6 days to buy tickets, and that included the marketing time on Instagram and email.
Yeah.
So
next
a
time,
relatively
like a whole month,
short
maybe,
window.
like all October, and at the end of October,
we shot
pick the
ourselves in
winner.
the foot with the short window. And so we'd like to extend the window, and I think that will equate to larger ticket sales.
Yeah.
The other thing was the first individual to go through the straw bale maze was a young girl, and we thought, oh my gosh, she's gonna get lost in there. We're kind of chuckling, kind of watching.
Yeah.
And she popped out the other side
Like
within a minute. And I said, how was it? And she said, that was so easy. And my heart just sunk. No one has had a hard time getting through the hay bale maze.
I know how much time you put into it's going to be difficult.
Epic. We're going to foil everybody. And so it was hidden in the high tunnel.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easily observable. And people were way more drawn to my dad doing tractor rides around the farm
Yes,
than they were
that
in the
was a
hay bale
hit.
maze. And so what we had previously done in previous years was just stack a bunch of hay bales in the middle of the field into a just hay bale castle, and the kids just climb on it and roll off of it.
Yeah.
And that more simple approach, I think, is the way to go. The 600 hay bales for the maze was too intricate for the 4-hour window that we had. And so next year, I think we'll just stack hay bales. I think everybody will enjoy it more, and it'll be a fraction of the cost. We could do the tower. We can do for
The hay tower. I like that. That's a good.
fifth
that
of
sounds good.
the price.
Yeah.
A fifth of the price.
Yeah, that
And
sounds good too.
So those are my two takeaways, and the simple experiences that I didn't think had legs to them, like the hay bale or the hay ride.
Yeah, that probably cost you nothing because your dad has the tractor.
Yeah, $30
He's
in
probably
diesel.
happy to come over.
Dad, I still owe you money for the diesel.
Yeah, yeah.
But $30 in diesel, and just the children just went round and round and round the farm. That was far more of a hit. I hate to say it, than the straw bale maze. So a lot of takeaways. I take that back. I was super discouraged on the day. I said, babe, no one went in that. And anyone that did popped out the other side.
They love it.
So
I think our kids. So here's what I'll tell you. One, our kids loved the hay maze. They were in it all last Saturday for bread day. So don't kick yourself. It was, I think, the young children who were worried about getting lost in there loved it.
perfect for
when I was up there were like 10 other kids in there.
Yeah.
Crawling all through it, and they loved it. My two thoughts for you were, one, the pumpkin patch, the location. So on Daniel's farm, he put it, there's like a linear walk from the parking lot through a big lawn and then to the bread barn. And it's a really big thoroughfare on these bread days when there's hundreds of people there. And I think the pumpkin patch needed to be in that thoroughfare so that parents basically, families, whoever's there, pumpkin, I'll grab that on the way to the bread barn and pay for it when I get inside. Versus where Daniel put him was in this very picturesque spot up on this hill that's probably 300 feet from that thoroughfare. So you had to walk up a hill to get to it. Once you're up there, there's beautiful views, and you had it laid out really awesome. But
You're
I think
a quarter mile from your car.
I think a lot of people probably couldn't even carry a big pumpkin or wouldn't want to from there all the way back to their car kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's an easy changed that might have equated for a lot more sales. It's so weird with in-person stuff like this. There's weird little changes that might have helped. The other thing I was thinking too was, that last bread day was massive. So I guess it's weird with stuff like this because you spent the $5,000 and those things you were hoping to make it up with one, from one source, which were the raffle ticket sales. But I mean, we got to bread day at like right at 10 a.m. when you guys opened, and they have a whole like 4-acre field for parking. Entire field was already filled, and there were people parking all down the street, and it was crazy. I mean, I imagine it must have been a really big day for the bakery and the cafe and all that stuff. We had a huge pre-order. I know there's just tons of people there. So I think that there might not be a direct, I made money back on the pumpkins, but I wonder how many people just came because of all these other things that you had. Maybe they didn't buy a pumpkin, but they spent money in the cafe.
Yes. To end on a good note, to wrap this up, aesthetically, it was amazing. Everything we built and had going on, the pumpkins, it fit the day very well.
Yeah.
And while I wanted the ticket sales to justify the large straw bill expense, they didn't. And I learned a lesson there. But it was our largest bread day, gross and net wise, by a wide margin. We saw
Just saying.
so many more people there.
Maybe it did work.
Buddy, what's crazy is the following bread day, which you came to,
Yeah.
just this last Saturday, was even bigger than the previous.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. When we showed up, we thought, let's get there early because the first one in October was so busy. And it was even busier.
It was even busier.
Just this past Saturday. Yeah.
So that has helped pacify me a little bit.
Maybe it did work. I don't know. Okay, jury's still out.
So jury's still out. But I learned a lot. Great experience, great experiment, and there's some awesome takeaways for next year.
Nice.
So.
Love it.
Okay, we're going to continue to the next segment, which is business idea proposals.
Yes.
And we're going to riff on them. The irony of this is not lost on us.
As we just went over
our two losses that we, our
two things that didn't go
experiments.
quite to plan.
Hey, these are the real ones. We're going to talk about what really is going to work. So we do have some serious business ideas that we've considered, we've thought about over the last week or two. I know we've been marinating on one of yours for a little while.
Yeah.
That we think could work, that have potential to make money, place-based businesses. They're ones we've given thought to. We likely won't do it, although the more I thought about mine, I'm like, I kind of like this idea.
Yeah, they're ones that are like already happening. Well, at least one of mine's something that definitely is already happening that that people might consider. So, can I go first?
I'd love it.
Okay, so my first idea for you is an abattoir. What is an abattoir, you might ask?
I do ask.
It is the French word for a butchering place, a meat processing place. So here's the opportunity. Right now in the U.S., 85% of the meat processing market is controlled by what's called the Big Four, which is like Tyson, Cargill, JBS, and National Beef. So the big bad conglomerates, so to speak. 15% of the market is small independent producers. And anybody who is in the farming, direct-to-consumer industry like myself, and I think a lot of like just straight-up consumers saw during COVID, there's a big weakness in that whole system because if one of those big four has an issue, like JBS got hacked a few years ago, I think it was maybe just a year ago, you know, it can shut down a whole huge processing plant that can throw off, retail and supermarket sourcing and all this stuff. So there's a big need for local producers or local processors. Of the 15% of those small independent producers, most of them say they are booked on average 12 to 36 months out for available slots. So that means like if you wanted to get your cow processed or your pig or your lamb or whatever, you'd have to wait a whole year at least right now on average. So there's a big gap in that market. I've definitely experienced it trying to get animals processed here in Virginia. We actually take our pork. We were taking them all the way down to North Carolina, which was like 3.5 hours or more away just to get slots at a place that we liked. And to get product back in time to sell in the timeline that we needed. And the other interesting thing about it as an opportunity right now is the USDA just got $1 billion funding for $1 billion bill passed to fund medium to small scale meat processors. So frankly, I think that could be a double-edged sword for anybody looking to do this. But it is interesting to note that there's hundreds of millions of dollars in grants out there right now for starting a small scale meat processing facility. There's like $100 million in education, grants for education to become an abattoir owner operator. So anyway, there's a really interesting niche for somebody who has that mindset, who I know that there would be a lot of paperwork, but who's okay with, getting, following all the regulations, filing all the paperwork you got to file, building a team. And I also think there's a real unique gap in the market for a small to medium scale processor that's going to do things all naturally. Mainly not using nitrates, nitrites, monosodium glutamate, all that kind of stuff in their processing, because a lot of, especially like sausage, gets all kinds of that stuff that that more and more studies are showing you just don't want. There's all these cancers directly linked to using nitrates and nitrites, which is a common preservative, or was a common preservative for meats. In other countries like France, they've banned the use of them because of the studies are so conclusive. And none of our sausage has that in it. So anyway, there's a big gap in that market, and it would be really cool to do. So here are some cons to this idea. A con is it is definitely very expensive to build a processing facility. The price averages I found were like $3 to $5 million. So it's a huge CapEx. Remember, there are these grants out there right now, but it would be a big CapEx. Another, I think, big hurdle in general would be just the staffing and operations. Because to be a full-on abattoir, even at a small scale, you need to be doing a good amount of business, and you're not. It's not just going to be you and one other person. You're going to need a team that's really moving through a lot of animals and is able to keep accruing new customers and all that. So there's a big staffing component to this that I think would be difficult. But I think if you can nail those two things, and you're doing it and you're processing a high quality product that's free of nitrates, monosodium glutamate, all that stuff, then I think you could really carve a niche for yourself, at least in our region, for processing. Another thing I'll say about it that's just kind of a cool other option for how you could get started with this, and this is why I was asking you before the podcast if your kitchen at the bakery is a USDA certified kitchen, and yours is a Virginia Department of Yep. So yours is a state certified kitchen.
Yes.
Which is great for what you're doing. You could get a USDA certified kitchen, and somebody who wanted to get into the meat processing business, say you wanted to do something that's a little more retail, like cured meats, prosciutto and salami and that kind of stuff, or even just cutting steaks like your classic butcher shop, you can build a USDA certified kitchen, which is a much lower expense. The estimates I saw on average were like $100,000. So you certainly can spend way more, but you might even be able to do it for less than that, which that's a very doable number, for a business to start with. And what you would then do is say, hey, I don't kill the animals on site. You would take your hogs, your chickens, your pigs, your hogs, your chickens, your cows, whatever, to a processor and just have them, kill them and bring the carcass back. Picture like in Rocky, where he's like
the slab
beating up the slab. Yeah, the big hanging carcass, big cattle carcasses boxing. It would be like that. You'd have a room, like a hanging room with all these sides of beef and sides of pork. And then you would take that in your USDA certified kitchen and break that down into pork chops and sausage and steaks and ground beef and all that.
And you could sell those retail?
And you could sell those retail. You could ship those all over the U.S. It's a much more, the regulations are very open on that. And it's a much lower cost to get in. And at the end of the day, if one was thinking about doing this, if I was thinking about doing this, I think I would do the second option. Because the first option, I think for the right person would be the way to go. Because there's definitely a need. I don't think that need's going anywhere for small to medium scale abattoirs. Like I said, right now it's 15%, but more and more people are looking local for their food sources, and there's going to need to be more processors, which is why the government's got this big funding behind it. But I would go with the second option for me because the first option is all based on scale. You do need to do a big amount of just numbers through your facility to make that profitable. The second option with the USDA kitchen is more based on retail sales. When you start getting down to actually making the sausage, that's where most of the profit is. There's not a lot of profit in actually just being able to kill and take the animal down to its side of beef. The money's made on what you do with that side of beef. Which is why with the first option, you really have to do a lot of killing to get profitable. Whereas with the second option, especially like in our town, how cool would it be to have like a
retail,
artisanal, like cured meats? And we do have a great local butcher, Cattleman's. And I think what they've done is really cool. So, big shout out to them. They are awesome. And I think there's probably room for something that's a little more like the cured meats vibe. You could still do steaks and ground beef and that kind of thing, but sort of your classic butcher shop. One of my cousin Nikki is married to this guy, Josh. He is the man. And Josh, they're up in New Jersey. Josh worked at this classic American butcher shop in New Jersey called Sabato's for years. And he took me there because he worked, even when he's now, has a career and all this stuff, but he would work there on like Saturday mornings just because he loved the environment. It was like 3 Italian guys that ran the place. And it's exactly what this second option would be. They had a chill room in the back. They'd make their own sausage. And it was all based on, hey, this is your local butcher shop. We've got high-end meats. And it just had a great vibe. And the business ran for decades. They recently sold it. But yeah, I think of that when I think of the second option. I'm like, oh, that would be really fun. And I think as a brick and mortar, really rewarding. And in conclusion, I think definitely could be very profitable.
I think it's a great idea, buddy. I also think if I did this, option 2 sounds much more manageable from a financial perspective, and then just a logistical and manning piece. But at the right scale with the right person, option 1 would be arguably more lucrative depending on what scale you do.
Yeah.
And we both agree, because we both experienced it from the consumer side or the needy customer side, that there's a huge need for this. And a wonderful friend, Marcus, who we toyed with the idea of, opening an abattoir during COVID because there was such a backlog and we couldn't get exemptions from the state to do it ourselves. And
COVID hit, and it already was a backlog at the local meat processors for guys like you and I that are small scale. And then it just got crazy after COVID. And obviously the market's going to correct itself eventually. More processors are going to arrive, and there'll be more people doing this. But I think we're still in the I think we're still in the window of time where there's opportunity to get in and make that first option happen. But I'm all about the second one. I think the second one will be really fun in that category. All right, what's your...
You set us on a good trajectory after the straw bale maze. That's a great business idea.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I'll go next. this idea has a very low barrier to entry for a young, gregarious entrepreneur. If I were starting again, so I don't know anything, I'm leaving the military and I'm looking to cash flow something quickly, I would want to do this job.
I can't wait to hear what you're
And
going
it
to say right
struck
now.
me, it struck me the other day when Ben, who does all of our pulled pork barbecue, chickens for bread day, he's an ace. We need green red oak. We need green red oak to prepare this meat. And
When you say green red oak, you mean freshly cut.
yeah, green
Oak
red oak sounds
firewood.
funny. Yes, I need wet red oak, freshly felled, and
Yeah.
the fresher the better. So
Because it makes more smoke for when he's going to smoke stuff.
it's a smoke thing, but also in the chimney, we don't want ash for him to scoop under the pig to
okay.
cook. We want coals. So this wet wood produces great big coals, vice ash
Interesting, okay.
that is produced by well-seasoned wood.
And it's hard to get this, you're saying.
It's hard to get it because there's a demand for seasoned firewood. That's what you'd burn in your home. A lot of people,
Buy
the
that out at
majority of
Lowe's,
people
yeah.
do it here. But this is a specific need from a brick and mortar business. And when you need it, you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this got me down this train of thought where this is such a great business opportunity for somebody who loves being outside, can work with their hands, and has some halfway decent customer service. Because I thought if someone walked up to the bread barn and said, "Hey, I see you have a wood oven, and I was here bread day and I saw you do, pit barbecue. Can I get you some wood?" I would have paid such a high price for the convenience of having somebody deliver it to me. So the idea here is Wood to You is the name of the business.
Wood
To You. And it's a direct to consumer, direct to small business owner, wood supplier. And the
So
low barrier,
maybe more of a B2B then. Yeah.
the low barrier to entry is this. You need a pickup truck or a vehicle that can tow a trailer. You need a chainsaw, and you need a hydraulic
Splitter.
wood splitter.
Yeah.
Okay. That gets you in the door. And I started thinking, what are these other businesses that would need this same wood supply? So I know we need seasoned soft and hardwood for the bread oven.
Mm-hmm.
We need green or wet red oak for the pit barbecue. Salernos, they want ash.
Mm-hmm.
They want seasoned ash for their wood-fired oven.
Mm-hmm.
We have several wood-fired barbecue joints in town.
That's
in
what I was thinking,
Lexington
like,
alone.
especially like competition barbecue guys, they're probably like very
Very
specific.
niche.
Yeah.
Wood requirements. And so I just started listing, and within our county and Augusta County just north of here, there's 15 or 20 businesses with wood requirements, and so that would require an ongoing supply of wood. And what's great about this business is that your customers consuming, literally burning the product, and they're gonna need more. I mean, it's a recurring need.
Yeah, and I got to imagine, I mean, around here, if you own woodland in any decent amount of acreage, there's more wood there's more trees that are coming down that need to be cut up and out of there than you can keep up with. I mean, I know we've got only like maybe 30 some acres of woods. There's way more trees than I could even get to that need to be cut up now. And if you had kind of like the junk hauling business, if you had like signs everywhere like, hey, do you have this type of tree fall down? Red oak, ash, white oak, cherry, down the list, call this number. And it'd be like, you show up, hey, you got a tree that fell down, I'll cut it up for you for free.
Yes.
And you get wood, time obviously, and fuel that you'd have to spend, but you'd get that at no cost to you other than your time and money. In terms of, like you were saying, a hustler to get going, you could really hustle this with very little expenditure up front.
Yes, and I think a lot of people sell firewood around here, seasoned wood of many different kinds. I think the differentiator here is who the customer is and the ongoing demand that's year round. You know, the firewood suppliers here have, you know, it's a small, relatively speaking, window of the need for wood. What's nice about this business is that it'd be year round. We're burning wood every week. You know, 365 days a year, we have an ongoing need. So I think there's a differentiator there, and the wet wood pieces seemed really hard nut for us to crack. And I think a reliable person with good customer service can make an instant impact.
Love this idea. You're like the Schwann's man of wood deliveries.
Wood to you.
All the barbecue, and it's all the businesses that you want to be in with: barbecue joints, wood-fired pizza places.
Yeah.
You know, that's like perfect. Yeah, those are my people.
And what was really so funny yesterday when I was writing notes for this, a new friend pulled up. His name's Tyler, and he's a friend of a friend with a load of green red oak for us. And I just had to laugh because I'm writing up these notes about what a great business plan. And he was like, yeah, whatever wood you need, I'm here for it. I said, you have no idea how lucrative this meetup has just become for you.
Now, what do you pay? So do you have any numbers, like rough numbers on?
So a cord of wood, there's a wide range of price just based on the quality of the wood. But, you know, a cord of wood can go for $250 to, I know my brother-in-law who lives in Maine paid $425 for a cord of wood.
What?
And that was the going rate there. It's not like he's very shrewd, and he didn't overpay. It was just the standard rate.
Man.
And that takes.
If you're in Maine, you definitely need to be doing this business.
But there's, you know, that's 2.5 hours of work, you know, plus whatever the delivery time would be. But the numbers I used to just see if this had legs was, you know, if we averaged $300 for a cord of wood, which I think is on the conservative side of things, plus whatever the delivery fee was. I know if we were running our oven every day, we run ours several times a week. If we ran ours every day, which a lot of wood-fired bakeries do, but about 3 cords a month is what we would need. So $900, $1,000 that I would pay for wood a month. If you have 10 clients at about that same wood usage rate, you know, you need to produce and deliver on average 1 cord every day.
Yeah.
You know, and that sounded manageable in my mind for a gross return of $10,000 before expenses. And I think a shrewd hustler can do a lot better than that. But as far as does this idea have profitability, I think the answer is yes. Low barrier to entry and pretty easy to start and network your way through a few clients.
I love that. I also like it because so many things that are low barrier to entry, there's so much competition in that space. So it's kind of tough, like because there's a low barrier of entry. Like the one that popped into my head is like power washing. It's not that expensive to get started with that business. And you see, you know, people do that. Not that it's a bad business at all. I think it can be really great. But this one in particular is interesting because it has similarities to, say, like starting a power washing business. You have pretty basic equipment to get going. You need to network to find your customers, especially you get some commercial accounts and you're off to the races. Like you said, somebody 10 U's and you got 10 grand a month of consistent revenue. But no one else is doing what you're talking about doing. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
maybe this is what I'll do this winter.
When we need to go work for Tyler.
Yeah.
Tyler, you know, we were talking and I thought, man, this idea is also easy to stack as well with other things. So he mentioned what he does, you know, someone will ask for him to remove a tree. So he's making money removing a particular tree that then, hey, I'll haul it for you. I'll haul it away for you.
Yeah,
so
they
then
pay you to take down. I was thinking
it.
you get it for free. They might pay you to cut down the tree. That's awesome.
Tyler has a sawmill, so he then takes tree that someone paid him to fell and now produces high quality lumber from it. And then he asked me, he said, would you use the trimmings from the sawmill for the wood oven? And I said, that would be optimal. That
and
stuff
that's just
burns
trash
like
from a sawmill.
So now he's
great.
selling his garbage, his offs to us. And so there's several profit possibilities.
I love that.
Through this one venture. So
I just thought of too, you might be able to hook up with like a local tree company and say, hey, if you got some, because a lot of time they don't have outlets. Their job is cutting down the trees and they don't want to have to store them on their lot. But man, if you're like, hey, I'll take any of these types of species, drop them at my place, or I'll pay the tree company, then you don't even have to cut down the tree and deal with all of that
less step.
mess. Yeah.
Do you know Woodlore in Rafine?
Yes.
That's
so cool.
His model. He honestly would be great to have on because he has a unique business model. But this fellow's a fine woodworker, and he basically does that. He'll haul the tree away. Anybody's trash tree, or like a tree fell on the VMI campus during a storm, and they called him to get rid of it. It was a giant walnut tree.
That's so cool.
And we got the slabs for the bread barn from one tree. But he does fine woodworking with this, someone else's garbage, and makes a living doing these exquisite, woodworking pieces. But that's my idea, which I'm getting
wood
really
to you.
Wood to you, sir.
With the number 2, wood to, and a U instead of YOU, wood to. That's the number 1-800-WOOD to you. Okay, do you want to go again? Do you want to double up and then end with my last one?
Okay, let's do that.
Yep.
Okay, I'll go with my second one.
Yeah.
You ready for this? The best thing about this one is the name of the business. Everything else out there is needs a little more fleshing out. Okay, the name of this business is Brick and Mortar Nanny. It is a farm sitting business. Okay?
Brick and Mortar Nanny.
We were gonna go with Brick and Mortar Au Pair, but to reduce confusion, Brick and Mortar.
No one knows
Nanny.
how to spell au pair, so that would be not knowing. That's just hard. Your Google search terms are really going to struggle there.
Brick and Mortar Nanny, and from the title, you can determine this is a farm sitting or a business sitting venture, not for the weak or faint-hearted.
Like a substitute teacher for your business.
Could also take the name of the business that way. But here's the need, and I think you've experienced this with your farming. We've certainly experienced this in the youth of our business, and we're just coming out of this. But when you start a place-based business, you must have the expectation of being inextricably tied to that business physically, and it's so hard to get away from that business, to recharge, to vacation, to go to a funeral.
That's one of the main things when we're talking to friends that are entrepreneurs. Getting away is always a big pain point. How do I even take a vacation? It's
such a pain point. And we've experienced that, and you've experienced that. And so there's almost this sense of you got to pay your dues.
Right.
It's just kind of part of the game. And I think there's a unique business opportunity there on two sides. So I think that's one problem, is the inability to get away. The other problem that potentially could be solved here is getting experience. If you're a young person wanting experience in the farming industry, in the dairy industry, in the baking industry, in the cattle industry, just the having some knowledge base before you start your own deal is greatly valuable. So we have a need of people needing to get away, and a need of people needing to learn the craft, or dabble in a few different areas of expertise. And so I was trying to think of how we mesh these two problems, and Brick and Mortar Nanny was the business that resulted. And I need your help fleshing out what sort of platform this occurs on. But I think in my mind, what happens is that an interested party. So if I want to come farm sit, I want a farm nanny for you, so you and Jill and the kids can get away for a week. And you don't have the personnel to backfill you. I come to you and I sit under your teaching for 2 days and just get the hang of it, how to move the cattle, how to water the animals, what garden hose needs to be turned on. And you, part of your due diligence with getting away is writing a detailed checklist. I have been vetted by the agency. You know, I picture like an app, like an Airbnb app where I can be rated. I upload my resume. I'm credible.
Yeah.
I'm as credible as
there's sort of a LinkedIn Airbnb vibe to it. Okay.
Yes. And then I come to you, you train me up with what I need to be equipped with, and you give me your phone number so I can call you if things go south. And then you and Jill go to Cancun with the kids, and this is a wonderful business model. You come back refreshed. I finish with that much more experience and the realization that, oh yeah, I want a cattle farm, or nope, I'm going to go to the bakery next time and see what that's about. What do you think of that idea?
I mean, I like it. It makes sense to me that there would be some sort of like online platform. So you probably would need to, because you don't want to start you don't want to have to like develop a software. So maybe you could white label something that already exists. I definitely agree with you that there is the need there for that kind of situation where a farmer, an entrepreneur wants to be able to take even a day or two off kind of thing. I think a week might be, it seems almost scary, but a whole weekend would be awesome for a lot of entrepreneurs. So I think the need's there. I like the idea of a social, Airbnb, LinkedIn component to it, where the business owner is looking at people and seeing like, oh, they got a 5-star rating. Oh, they've already done they already did a coffee shop weekend where they ran a coffee shop and that kind of thing. I mean, I think you'd probably pay a decent amount for it. I think somebody could make good money.
What would you pay
a farm nanny, so to speak?
If Bailey, your full-time employee, he would make a great farm nanny for anybody.
Yeah, he would.
But if he wasn't in the picture, what would you pay for you and Jill and the children to get away? Let's say for 3 nights.
Yeah, you'd probably
3 nights, 4 days.
I think you got to expect to pay a premium. I would think on the farm right now, I mean, it's probably a $300 to $500 a day value at the scale we're at. It would be interesting to ask about this is Ben Beichler, who has the dairy.
A bit more of an intricate setup, if you will.
Yeah, and it's really repetitive, but it is very, it's a big setup. And he definitely has struggled with this. Like, a dairy is 7 days a week, 365. How do I get away for any decent amount of time? I like it. I think what would be tough about it is for the entrepreneur is trusting this person. Like, can you really imagine leaving the bakery in anyone else's hands for a weekend? That would be interesting. I know with the farm, we've successfully done that where we've had friends come out, kind of learn the ropes, and then do chores one morning without me, kind of thing. My brother's done that for me many times back in the day, which was amazing. So yeah, just to give me a morning off kind of thing. So I definitely think there's a need for it. I like the idea that it would be some sort of online platform, and you could like post a business could post a opening, hey, this week, because it also might be like, I was thinking second part of this idea could be like a more than just a weekend. It could be like right now I'm just thinking of Ben again. Ben's looking for a new farm manager because one of his farm managers is leaving. So he might just want like an interim farm manager while in between the first one leaving and hiring a new guy. So he could post a need on this brick and mortar nanny website where he's like, hey, dairy farm in Virginia needs somebody for 3 to 8 weeks or whatever 2 to 8 weeks, where some window of time where maybe that somebody's there for a couple months as the gap filler before he gets his new guy or gal in there as the farm manager. So anyway, I think it's a cool idea. I think it sounds, it would be mainly about building the social network where people interact on this level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was one of the barriers that I identified was just how do you get small businesses in the network, and how do you get those quality individuals that are going to be able to be placeholders. But I think
I love the idea of building a social network that's niche like this, though. There's a lot of value there that I think would be, fascinating to explore, because like I've heard of ones for, like contractors, building contractors or doctors or, lawyers. They'll have these niche social networks to fulfill their specific needs. And this one could be for small to medium sized brick and mortar businesses to have short-term or interim employees to come fulfill a role at a place. It's an interesting niche that I think definitely exists.
Awesome. I'm really excited about your second one. Can we dive into that one?
Absolutely. So my second idea and our last idea for today's podcast is something you and I have talked about before, and I just thought it'd be fun to kind of flesh out more. And I had sort of a second idea along with this as I was sharing the first idea with friends. So the first idea is, picture the farm. You've got, at our place, we've got chickens, we've got the cows. There's really basic daily chores, especially in the summertime, of feeding the chickens and checking the cows' water, moving them from one field to the next. And the farm itself just has lots of opportunities for outdoor activities. There's several ponds here. There's a creek. There's rope swings. We've got kids, so we've got all kinds of stuff set up for them around the property. And we, over the years, have had so many friends say, "Oh, we're sending our kids out to the farm for farm camp." We have friends that jokingly call, like, every summer when they come out, this is like farm camp for our kids. And so imagine, if you will, that bucolic setting, but we formally set up a day camp for kiddos that would be farm camp. And you'd have all kinds of fun games and, hikes, day camp stuff that you do. But there'd also be a farming component to it where you might learn how to do something really simple. Like you might learn about how to take care of a baby chick, and you might get to hold a baby chick and learn about its feed and its water and how all that works here at the farm. Or you could do the same sort of thing at your place. You might have like, hey, we're going to make lunch today together. We're going to learn how to make pizza dough, and everybody's going to make their own pizza at farm camp today.
Yes, sir.
That kind of stuff that are like basic daily things that you and I do all the time, that when especially children get to do for the first time, you kind of remember again why you loved it too, but their eyes light up, they're like, whoa, when they get to hold that baby chick, and when they see it, out on pasture, when they get to pull that pizza out of the oven and, see like, wow, I made this. So anyway, the idea is a farm camp that would be a day camp in the summer that would just take advantage of all of the beauty and fun stuff to do between our two properties.
When you say day camp, are you thinking all this is going to occur over a 1 day period, or what is the length that, Johnny Powers would sign up for this?
Well, I don't know. I think day camp, I could be wrong about this. I was using it in the sense of, I think day camp means not an overnight camp. Like we don't have cabins. I think you need like a lot of counselors and, camp counselors and stuff if you're going to have an actual overnight camp, and you need all kinds of information. Whereas this would be like, drop your kids off in the morning, pick them up in the evening, while they're not in school for summer break. This is one option for them to do, is a week long, probably 5 days of farm camp.
I love this. The first time I thought of the same idea was a while ago. We've since talked about this idea, but we were taking pigs to butcher in an open trailer that you could see You could see what animals you were carrying. And we stopped for gas, and we got out. The whole family was with us, and all the kids were hanging off the trailer looking in. And this family came over, and they said, what is that? And, you know, it was 3 Berkshire hogs. And, you know, my daughter said, oh, they're pigs. We're taking them to butcher. And the children, they were from New York, and they had never seen pigs in person before.
Oh, wow.
And they were absolutely fascinated. And I thought, we need to have an opportunity to, you know, share what we get to experience every day.
Yeah, what's normal life stuff
which
for
is
us.
so abnormal for other people.
It's like how I like going to New York City maybe for a day.
Just dabble. Yeah, just a little dabbling.
Yeah, just to get the feel for it.
And so I thought, I think there's such a market for this. I also think that we homeschool our children, so the idea is less familiar to us, but this idea that, you know, children are in school every day for 8-9 months of the year, and then come summer, that can be an overwhelming time for parents. And to have a creative, constructive,
hands-on,
get them tired during the day, hands-on experience, I think is very valuable to families, even in our more rural setting.
Yeah.
And I think that
definitely
extends, you know, to a more suburban place, even more so. I think of all the activities you listed farm tours. I'm thinking at our place, I could stand in the creek and build dams all day.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm picturing these little cohorts lined up down the creek.
Yeah.
All right, you have 30 minutes. Let's see who can build a dam. Here's the clay. Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just lost in it. Then you find a crayfish and you get distracted.
Right.
Okay, now it's time. We're going to learn how to build a fire.
Right.
All right. You remember that? You know, now we're gonna cook over the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna make bread. Let's build a fort now. These can be very simple tasks to us, I think, that are just creative outlets for children and properly curated. Man, I think
awesome.
this is an awesome, and there's so much fulfillment in it for us or the counselors or guides that we would have accompanying these children, just to see the excitement.
I like that
children.
word guides, because it's like when you go like hunting or fishing, you get a guide. That's what it'd be like.
Right.
This is your guide.
I'm going to show you the way. I'm not going to do it for you,
but
I'm just going to give you the left and right limits. Yeah, I like that idea too, but this is an awesome idea, buddy.
We've got all winter to ruminate on this and make some plans. So if anyone listening thinks it's a good idea, let us know. And we may do something like this in the future. Okay, let me tell you my kind of second idea to this, which came up when I was sharing the farm camp idea with some friends. So we were talking about how much kids would love it. And they were like, oh, I think parents would love this too. Like, parents would love to make the wood-fired pizza and, you know, play with their kids probably in these, you know, build the dam in the creek with their kids kind of thing. So there's that component too. We started sort of just brainstorming around that. A place we landed that I think would be a really cool possibility is sort of a, I wouldn't call it a camp, but I would call it something a little more mature. Call it like a workshop. And you could do essentially like our version of a homesteading workshop. And so this isn't per se a new idea. I just think we could do our take on it, where we collaborate with, you know, you, me, we get the Ben Beiklers of the world, you know, get his wife Kristen to do a thing on you know, making butter and how to make yogurt. You can do a thing on making bread and, you know, how to bake this particular type of loaf, and kind of an interactive thing where everyone's baking their own baguette or whatever. I can do the farming, the livestock portion, because how many people do you talk to, even here in our town, that kind of dream of doing a homestead level of farming? And certainly beyond our town, so many people I talk to, friends of mine and friends of friends that live in or near a city, are always saying to me like, oh man, that's like the dream, is to move out to the country, have a little bit of land, and be able to kind of raise my own stuff. So I think it would just be cool to condense that dream into a educational weekend for, you know, for couples. And it could be sort of like it might just be a day thing, like all day Saturday, we'll go to 3 different farms. You'll see 3 different ways to do things. And it ends, you know, back at season's yield, and that bread you baked earlier is going to be coming out of the oven. And, you know, the chickens, we're going to be having a beautiful smoked chicken dinner. And like the chickens that you saw the raising process on earlier and kind of learned how to do that at Buddy's farm. So it would be like this big cohesive experience that would end with this, be all educational all day, and then it would end with this beautiful farm local dinner where you're just sitting at a big table with, you know, 20 other couples. I think people would really enjoy that as an experience, as sort of a day away for a couple.
Can I add one more?
Oh, sure. Is it a brewery or a winery? Because I didn't think about that, but that's a good one for the
How
dinner.
cool would it be if we had the children's camp and the adult workshop, and they ran concurrent with each other?
I see where you're going. Yeah.
So the children could be dropped off at Season's Yield for dam building, fire starting, bread baking, and the parents then drive to Big Spring for your litany of schedule. And then at some point, the parents and children might cross paths, but they're on independent tracks, but it could be a whole family experience curated for your age group.
Yeah.
And then the culminating meal is
a big
families
family meal.
gathered together. So the children are bringing the pizza they made or the trout they caught and killed and cooked over the open fire. And then the mother's doing her apple pie or the chicken they butchered. I think we could do, it would be a logistical nightmare's too strong, but
it would be a beautiful dance.
Do some mental gymnastics, but I think that would be so cool. But the idea of culminating as a family with your learned and shared experiences on the farm overlooking Big Spring.
Oh man, that'd be so fun.
Sign me up.
I think a lot of people would love that too. That's stuff. There's you know, homesteading conferences and all that kind of stuff. I think what we're talking about is probably more, those conferences I think are like, you know, 90% knowledge,
informative,
and like probably 10% networking. Maybe I'm off on that, but 50-50 networking, 50% instructional. Ours would be more like, you know, 20%, 30% instructional, 70% just experience, memories, connecting with the land, connecting with your spouse, connecting with your kids in this whole new setting. I think that would be really fun.
I like it. And I think I think a lot of people want the country experience, but do they really?
Yeah, they want the romantic version.
Can they really?
Yeah.
Do they really? And can they really? But to have a 3-day weekend or 2-day weekend devoted to just full immersion in it, they'll definitely scratch that itch, and it'd be a great experience for them going forward. But
yes, we definitely need to keep that in the back of our minds. If anyone listening is interested in that idea, let us know. That one feels like, of all the things we've talked about, I just feel the most excited about, like, actually us doing that, which isn't what this was supposed to be about, but that is what it's becoming.
I think we're there now.
Yeah.
Well, that often happens when you and I talk, is we get excited, latch onto this idea.
Yeah.
And then the more we talk about it, the more excited we get. And this has definitely happened for Farm Camp.
Yeah. Well, to be continued.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. This is a life-giving conversation. Super fulfilling for me. Fun to discourse about. I think we've had some good to decent ideas. Maybe a real zinger with the Farm Camp. And also the failures too, because that's part of the journey. Whether you're a place-based business or not, experimenting and
no shame here.
On your face.
It happens.
No shame. So, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, man. I hope you guys listening enjoyed this conversation as much as we did, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you next time.